At my housewarming party, the room glowed with soft light, voices tangled in laughter, and for the first time in years I thought, this was mine. My home. My sanctuary. Then my sister stood tall. Her voice cracked through the joy like thunder tearing open a sky. My lawyer has already drawn up the papers. From this moment, this house is mine. Gasps rippled through the guests. She turned slowly, savoring the spotlight, her lips curling into something sharp and cruel. And he, she jabbed her finger toward me, is no longer welcome here. The room froze. I felt eyes stabbing into my back, whispers rising like smoke. My wife didn't flinch. She lifted her glass, let the red wine kiss her lips, and whispered a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Then silence swallowed the air whole. My name is Elena Carter. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Bez, tell me, have you ever been erased in the very place you built with your own hands? Her declaration wasn't sudden. It was sharpened, rehearsed, a dagger she had been waiting to drive into me. I stood rooted to the floorboards I had chosen, the walls I had painted, the house I had poured my soul into. Now in a single sentence she claimed it as hers. But as my wife's steady gaze met mine, calm and unshaken, I understood something. This wasn't my collapse. It was my awakening. My sister. She had just written her own ending. The silence after her words was heavy, like a storm pressing down on the roof. Guests shifted uneasily, some sipping their drinks too quickly, others pretending to check their phones, all desperate to escape the tension. But I couldn't move. My sister stood there, triumphant, like she had just won a battle I didn't even know I was fighting. Her smile wasn't joy, it was ownership. "Don't look so shocked, Elena," she said, her voice low enough to slice only me. "You've always been naive. You never understood that nothing truly belongs to you." Her words stung worse than the papers she waved in her manicured hand. Legal. Signed. Stamped. She had planned this down to the moment. And the worst part? Some of the guests believed her. Their eyes flicked between us, already calculating which side they would choose, already rehearsing how they'd tell the story later. Her sister took everything. She should have seen it coming. I wanted to scream. I wanted to claw back the house, the dignity, the life I had just begun to stitch together. But then my wife placed her hand gently over mine. Her calm was a fortress. She leaned close, her lips brushing my ear, and whispered, "Let her finish. The higher she climbs, the harder she falls." I swallowed hard. Her words were a seed of fire in my chest. Because she was right. My sister wasn't just stealing my home, she was performing. And every performance has an ending. The papers, the crowd, her smug little smirk. It all reeked of arrogance. He thought this was checkmate. But I knew something she didn't. This housewarming party wasn't just a gathering. It was layered, documented, witnessed. And soon, very soon, her betrayal would be the noose she tied around her own neck. I didn't collapse that night. I stood straighter. I forced a smile so thin it burned my cheeks. Because while she believed she had taken my home, she had only given me a reason to burn her kingdom to ash. The party didn't end, it unraveled. Guests trickled out one by one, their faces painted with the kind of pity that feels worse than cruelty. They avoided my eyes as though my sister's declaration had turned me into something contagious. My sister basked in it. She stayed planted in the center of my living room, swirling her champagne, telling anyone who lingered too long about the new deed, and how Elena should have known better. Every word she spoke was a stone, building a wall around me in my own home. I slipped outside. The night air was cold, sharp, cutting through my skin like truth. My wife followed, silent at first, then she said, "Elena, don't let her win in this moment. You're not broken. You're gathering ammunition." That line stuck with me. Ammunition. Because betrayal isn't just an ending, it's evidence. I thought back to every phone call, every offhand comment, every time my sister had brushed past me with that sly smile. She'd been laying the groundwork for months, maybe years. But arrogance leaves footprints. And if she had used a lawyer, there would be paper trails. If she had forged something, there would be cracks. And cracks always spread. I went back inside, not as her victim but as her shadow. She didn't notice me watching, recording, remembering. Her words became bricks for my foundation. I told her she wasn't capable of keeping this place afloat. She bragged to a cluster of old family friends. She doesn't understand responsibility the way I do. They nodded nervously, pretending to agree. But I caught the hesitation in their eyes. Doubt. Seeds. Seeds I could water. When the last guest finally left, she turned to me with a smirk. You can stay here tonight, Elena. I'm not heartless. But by morning, you'll be gone. I stared at her, calm, steady, almost grateful. Because in her mind she had destroyed me. But in mine she had just revealed her greatest weakness. He thought the war was over. But it had only just begun. Morning came heavy. The air in my house felt stolen, like even the walls were whispering her name instead of mine. My sister strutted around the kitchen in my robe, sipping my coffee as if the world had already redrawn itself in her favor. Don't take it personally, Elena, she said, dropping sugar cubes into her mug. It's just business. Some people build. Others inherit. You were never meant to hold on to anything. I forced a smile, though my chest burned. Funny, I said. I don't remember inviting you into my life as my financial advisor. She smirked, delighted by her own cruelty. That smirk told me everything. It wasn't enough to take my home. She needed to watch me crumble. But she wouldn't get that satisfaction. As soon as she left to handle some errands, her words not mine, my wife and I went to work. We dug through files, drawers, emails. I called my bank. She called a friend who worked at the county clerk's office. And then, there it was. A date. A signature. Wrong. The paperwork my sister bragged about, the transfer of the house, had a timestamp that didn't match. My signature was there, but the notary's stamp was off by 2 weeks. 2 weeks when I was in Chicago on business, nowhere near a courthouse. Forgery. Sloppy. My hands trembled, not with fear, but with the raw thrill of a weapon sliding into my grip. She forged it, I whispered, showing my wife the proof. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. And forged documents don't just fall apart, Elena. They explode. We saved everything. Screenshots, copies, timestamps. Evidence became our armor. But evidence alone wouldn't be enough. She wanted a stage? I would give her one. And this time when the spotlight hit, it wouldn't illuminate me as the victim. It would burn her alive. I invited everyone who mattered to a charity brunch. Neighbors, family, the same friends who'd clinked glasses the night my sister stole my life. I told them it was to celebrate community, food, and second chances. It was a lie designed to dress the truth in Sunday best. She arrived wearing the same smug crown, sunglasses perched like armor, her arm looped through some cousin who had already started spreading the rumor about how Elena lost everything. She moved through the room like a queen in exile taking her throne, greeting people with practiced grief and feigned pity for me. I watched her from across the table while servers passed platters and people laughed at jokes that were suddenly brittle. My wife sat beside me, fingers tight around mine, eyes quiet fire. She had arranged for our lawyer, Maya Reynolds, to be there, casually attending with a friend. Maya's presence was a quiet promise. Smile, my wife mouthed. Let her think she's untouchable. So I smiled. I poured mimosas. I listened. Every time my sister opened her mouth, she filled it with the same poisonous lines. She was careless. She let it slip. It's better this way. People murmured. Sympathy skewed toward the loudest storyteller. Maya waited until the speeches. Until my sister had taken the microphone and wrapped herself in melodrama, declaring how she'd saved the house from my supposed recklessness. The room leaned in, they loved a savior. Then Maya stood. Quiet at first, the kind of quiet that pulls attention like gravity. She cleared her throat and said, "There's been a mistake." My sister laughed. Too bright, too fast. "Your point," she snapped, expecting ally applause. Maya produced a simple envelope and walked to the center of the room. The hush that followed was sharp as glass. She spoke in plain, surgical sentences. The county clerk confirmed the notarization mismatch. Electronic records placed me in Chicago on the dates shown. The so-called transfer documents were filed using an IP address that tracked back to my sister's home computer. Faces went from warm to wide-eyed. The cousin who'd been ready to defend her stuttered. My sister's sunglasses hit the floor as she fumbled for a story. Her mouth formed words that had no weight. I felt something loosen inside me, not relief, not yet, but a terrible, beautiful clarity. People who had abandoned me now watched her unravel, and for the first time the narrative shifted. Their pity curdled into shame. She tried to storm away, but the room held her, the way water holds a stone dropped into its center. My sister looked at me then, raw, exposed, and for a second I thought I saw regret. Then a flash of rage and she spat, "You'll pay for this." I met her eyes and smiled without heat. Around us, the brunch resumed like a world corrected. Conversations resumed, but the hum was different now. Tighter, observant, waiting. When she left, she didn't take the deed. She took something else. Pride, unspoiled, and the quiet knowledge that she had no stage left. I sat back down, my wife's hand finding mine, and I realized how simple victory tastes. Like coffee gone cold, bitter and clean. The brunch ended, but the war didn't. My sister vanished for a few days, licking her wounds in silence. But silence isn't surrender. It's plotting. And I knew her too well to mistake retreat for defeat. On the fourth night I got the call. "Elena, this is Detective Harris. We need you to come down to the station. There's been a complaint filed against you." My stomach dropped. She moved fast. She had gone from bold declarations to legal daggers, spinning lies into police reports. Fraud. Mismanagement. Claims that I had forged documents. The audacity almost stole my breath. Almost. At the station I sat beneath flickering fluorescent lights, the air thick with the smell of burnt coffee and paper. They slid the file across to me, her statement thick with accusations. She painted herself as the victim, the noble sister saving a house from a reckless woman spiraling out of control. The detective studied me, waiting for cracks. I gave him none. Instead, I opened my bag and laid out the evidence we had gathered. The timestamp mismatch, the IP records, the notarization discrepancies. Every page was a bullet loaded with her fingerprints, not mine. He flipped through the stack, his jaw tightening. By the time he closed the file, his eyes had changed. Not suspicion anymore. Something closer to grim recognition. "We'll investigate further," he said carefully. "But if what you're saying holds up, this isn't going to end well for your sister." Driving home that night, the city lights blurred against the windshield. My wife reached across the console, her thumb brushing my knuckles. "This isn't just about a house anymore, Elena. This is about exposing her for everything she is." And she was right. My sister's greed had grown too wild, too loud. She wasn't just clawing at bricks and mortar, she was clawing at my life. But the harder she grasped, the more she bled. I stepped into my house, and felt something shift. For the first time, the walls didn't feel stolen. They felt like soldiers waiting for the command. My sister thought she was dragging me into darkness. But she hadn't realized. I'd learned how to see in the dark. The storm broke on a Thursday evening. I was in my kitchen, the hum of the fridge the only sound, when my phone began to vibrate non-stop. Texts. Missed calls. I clicked one. And there she was. My sister, splashed across the local news. "Woman under investigation for property fraud." The anchor's voice was steady, merciless. They laid it all out. The falsified documents, the suspicious IP address, the inconsistencies in her statements. They even replayed snippets from the charity brunch, videos guests had uploaded without her realizing, showing her brags, her arrogance, her downfall in real time. Her own words had become her executioner. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt something heavier, like justice was a mountain and I was only just reaching the summit. Because she wasn't done fighting. That night, she stormed into my driveway, headlights slicing through the dark. She pounded on the door, her face twisted, mascara streaking like war paint. "You think this is over?" she screamed. "You ruined me, Elena. You turned everyone against me." I opened the door slowly, my wife standing firm behind me. I didn't flinch. I didn't retreat. "No," I said softly. "You ruined yourself." All I did was hold up the mirror. Her eyes flickered, rage battling with fear. For the first time I saw it, the crack in her armor. She wasn't invincible. She was desperate. She lunged closer, her voice breaking. "You'll regret this. I swear you will." But the sound of tires crunching on gravel cut her short. A black sedan rolled up. 2 officers stepped out, their badges catching the porch light. "Miss Carter," one of them said, addressing her, not me. "You need to come with us." The look on her face, shock, disbelief, the sudden realization that the stage she had built was collapsing beneath her feet, seared itself into me. As they led her away, her eyes locked on mine, not with hatred anymore but with something closer to betrayal. A twisted echo of what she had done to me. I closed the door behind me. My wife wrapped her arms around my waist, grounding me as the night finally went still. But I knew one thing. This wasn't the finale. This was the drum roll before the last note. The trial was swift, but the fallout was slower, heavier, like ash after a fire. I sat in the courtroom as my sister faced the judge, her once perfect posture sagging under the weight of her own greed. The same papers she had waved in triumph at my housewarming now sat exposed under harsh fluorescent lights. Fraudulent, sloppy, undeniable. Her lawyer tried to spin it. Stress, confusion, a clerical error. But truth has a way of sharpening itself when you've tried too hard to dull it. And the truth was this: she forged, she lied, she tried to erase me. When the verdict came, guilty, she didn't look at the judge. She looked at me. Eyes wet, lips trembling, a silent plea buried in her stare. For forgiveness. For rescue. For the bond we once had. I gave her nothing. Because forgiveness is a gift, and she had tried to bury me before I had the chance to choose whether she deserved it. Afterward, I walked through the halls of the courthouse with my wife's hand in mine. The sun hit the marble floors, scattering gold across the walls. And for the first time in months, I felt the air return to my lungs. The house was mine again. Not because the deed said so, but because I had defended it, brick by brick, truth by truth. Every corner now carried a different weight. Not stolen, not fragile, but earned. Friends came back slowly, their shame clumsy but sincere. They told me they'd always doubted her. I let them talk. I didn't need their apologies anymore. My story wasn't for them, it was for me. And for you, watching, listening, carrying my words into your own silence. Because maybe you've been betrayed by someone who should have loved you. Maybe you've stood in a room full of people and felt yourself erased. But hear me, silence doesn't break you. It builds you. Betrayal doesn't bury you. It reveals you. And when the world counts you out, 3, 2, 1, sometimes what follows isn't silence. It's resurrection.